of Ceremonies, Nathan Cassar.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Justice Plan TV and podcast show, where we bring the wedding experts to your home to provide you with insider tips and knowledge to best help your special day go just as planned. Now, I'm your host and professional wedding MC, Nathan Cassar, and it's a sincere pleasure to kick off season 2 for what is going to be a really exciting new season full of incredible wedding experts that I'll have the pleasure of bringing to you throughout the season. Now, this week in this episode, I am excited to introduce to you the one and only Alex Pisani, the owner of Unity Entertainment, and he's also a fantastic wedding DJ. Now, I had the pleasure of working with Alex last year in November, and I must say that his service is top notch. Unity Entertainment is a boutique wedding DJ and MC service, just like me, that operates in Sydney, Central Coast, Newcastle, Bowral, Southern Highlands, Hunter Valley, South Coast, Northern Beaches, and other regions. For those of you familiar with the New South Wales regions, he is just all over the place. Alex and his team tailor their bookings to suit your specific needs, including music, sound facade, and lighting options. With Alex, you can definitely be rest assured that your wedding night will be one big fun party. Now, today during our conversation, Alex will share his story and how he goes above and beyond to satisfy his clients. We'll also discuss critical components of the reception, including the run sheet, planning, music selections, your first dance, and room layout, all very critical parts of what goes into a successful wedding reception. Now, if you're planning a wedding or know someone who is, you do not want to miss this episode. Alex has a wealth of knowledge, and I am so excited to get straight into this. Alex, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Hello, thank you. Good, thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
I know at the moment, I know it's a bit of we're filming this in times where the weather is just all over the place, and I'm sure that you've been feeling the heat at all the weddings as well that you've been going to recently. What's your top tip when you sort of show up on a day and during these summer periods, how do you sort of get through the day, being in the suit and everything? 'Cause I know you're like me, we dress up nice for the weddings and so forth. So how do you sort of get through those really sort of stressful hot days?
Yeah, well, luckily for me, the one I did on last weekend, I was DJ only, not MC, so I could get away with just a collared shirt, open collar, roll up the sleeves straight away. But if I'm MCing, I'm always, MC's always got to be the best dressed in the room. So yeah, bow tie doesn't come off until the end of the night, unfortunately.
It's very true. It's very true. It's funny. I have a lot of people who they'll tell me, I'll be out and about, particularly the sort of the inside outside wedding venues that have beautiful outdoor locations where we do the canapes outside and we come to the inside marquee or something like that. And so, just like yourself, you got to dress up well. And it's funny because people will often say to me, I'm sure they say the same to you, take the jacket off, dress down a bit. And I'm like, no. If there's one thing you got to stay, it's as the MC, you've got to be, you're right. You almost got to correct there. And I put an asterisk there. You got to look better than the guests, but not as good as the groom. Because of course,
Yes,
they're just, they are. Yeah, for us guys, we can't outdo the other guy that's the main one of the show. So, but yeah, I love that so much. So tell me, Alex, a bit more about you. What sort of got you into the whole wedding and MC game and your new company, Unity Entertainment? Sort of what's your sort of, how have you been wanting to grow this recently, and how, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do with the company.
Yeah, so it started out kind of something I fell into. I was always, very much into my music, so I loved DJing. But I was, started out as a nightclub DJ, just doing those, closing sets and opening sets at clubs in King's Cross and Sydney and stuff. And one of the agencies I used to get bookings through from them, they said they're going to branch out into weddings, and they offered me a wedding. And I said straight up, I've never done one before. I've been to a handful of weddings as a guest, but they said, we'll put you on, blah, blah, they're not expecting much. And that agency, I don't work for them anymore for obvious reasons. They kind of chucked me into the deep end and everything. And to be honest, I didn't like how they ran things. But the point is that I kind of fell in love with it straight away. It was really good. I love seeing people on the happiest day of their life and being a part of that. So
Yeah.
ended up trying to focus myself as a DJ, going more into weddings rather than pursuing the nightclub stuff. And yeah, from there, stopped working for agencies and work for myself now.
Awesome. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's great that obviously like many wedding professionals just like yourself, yourself and many others that we've worked with, you know, it really does make a difference when we are really passionate about what we do. And I can't really say I've met too many wedding professionals that don't like being in the wedding game, but it's always obviously, of course, a really key thing, I would assume, when people are wanting to select a vendor, because there's so many choices out there, to really sort of, would you say that it's important that you really find somebody who really truly loves what they do?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, your heart has to be in it for this sort of industry. I think if you're doing something and not loving what you do in a wedding, it's just going to show quite blatantly, and it's going to be obvious, and yeah, and for all the wrong reasons. So
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
heart has to be in it. You got to love what you do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, speaking of sort of like how the whole thing plays out, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you today about was something that comes up quite frequently with my couples, of course, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing as an MCGJ as well. A lot of couples obviously come to you and talk to you about run sheets, and they say like, where do I start? Because I've always found that as I came to the industry, a lot of venues will, because they're just doing so many weddings, will pass this responsibility on to the couples. And yet, you know, most couples aren't wedding professionals. They're not event coordinators and event managers. You know, they're not marketing, whoever. They're not part of a job in their normal day-to-day that would do something like that. So what is your sort of like, you know, hot tips when it comes to being able to put together like a killer run sheet?
Yeah, so in my experience, there's very few things that are set in stone. So mainly, depending on if it's with the food with the venue or they're getting an external caterer, kind of the times they want to serve the food is almost like you start with there and you try and position the rest of the day around that, because that's kind of the one thing that is less flexible than everything else, you know. And then there's a lot of other things that people do because of tradition that they haven't even questioned, and they definitely should be. So you don't necessarily always have to do your cake cutting right after the groom's speech, so on and so forth. First dance right after that. It's you know, there's a reason that these things work in that way. It makes kind of logical sense. But if you want something unique and something different, you have a different idea of what you're after, then yeah, by all means, go for it.
Oh, that's perfect, and I love that. That's a really good piece of advice, because I get a lot of people saying to me like, "Oh, is that how it's done?" And it's like, you're right. Like, you know, yes, sure, there are ways that it could be done like that. There is definitely, as you said, best practice sometimes to really follow. But yet, yeah, no, you're right. Like, it's their day, so of course, like, go for it. You know, go to town. Like, of course, I think the best question is to always keep in mind is to always come to people like us and like have that active conversation about what we believe would work and not work. But no, absolutely, go nuts. I love that you give that flexibility and you make your couples aware of that, because that's just so key. Now, sort of flipping to from, say, take your MC hat off for a second and put your DJ hat on. Yep. And a realm that, you know, I'm as a pure MC, I love working with you guys. I love how you guys, the synergy that when we were working together, like I was able to rely on you to mix all the tracks, play everything at the right time, and I could roam the room and do what I had to do and make sure everything was run on schedule and really fun and upbeat. Talking about those key music selections, what's kind of your philosophy with that, and how would you advise your couples out there to go about those music selections? Because it's some of the biggest questions I see on Facebook groups and other social media outlets where people say, I just don't know what to pick. So what's your hot tips for that?
Yeah, I would say generally with your special moment songs in particular, some people are just not really big music heads, so a lot of the generic responses say, oh, you know, pick a song that's special to the two of you, and then some people just kind of like deer in the headlights and like, oh, we don't have a special song between us. So yeah, just go with the song that you like, music that you enjoy. It's going to work well for that kind of time frame. And just I would also say my biggest thing is don't go with something that's super currently topical right now, not topical rather, like a current chart-topping pop song right now, because those songs come and go, and then it's really just going to date your wedding video and everything. And just to throw, sorry, good guy,
no,
but
that's
John
a really
Legend
good
to throw him
point.
under the bus. John Legend, All of Me. I know a lot of people, they never want to hear that song ever again.
Well, the first thing I thought was Ed Sheeran, so perfect, like,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. No, but you're so true though. That's actually a really good point that I've never thought of before. Like that, yeah, like it really does date it to a degree. I mean, of course, you're right. If it's really important to them, sure, but okay. And then sort of, I've had some couples say to me in the past, that they've the feedback or the DJs I spoke to where they maybe perhaps offer like do not play lists and things like that. Do you also recommend being able to? Is this more information, more power to the DJ, like going to give them a better night?
Yeah, so when it comes to like if you want for your dancing portion of the night or just in general if you have whatever your song selections are, I would say let people focus more on music you want for dinner time rather than your party time, which sort of seems counterintuitive because you got some favorite songs that you want to hear. I'm happy to play them during dinner time and everyone, they're special to you. That's when you're going to be paying attention to it. You'll be there eating dinner, you'll hear it. And I think for party time, if you're booking a DJ, you book them for their expertise and they know what's going to work, So I think more focus on your do not plays if you have a song that you actually don't want to hear, absolutely no nutbush or whatever, for whatever reason.
Which makes me sad. I'm sorry. I gotta admit, me, I'm a sucker for a line dance, but I hear it. If you don't want to hear it, I get it.
And in my experience, is sort of let your DJ work the dance floor. If it's important to you to have a big party and people dancing, the more freedom you give for them to, take requests, fill the room, the better they're going to do their job. For me, I don't mind getting a huge list of songs that they prefer because it gives me a good idea what they like, but I always try and encourage people. I say I take these as sort of inspiration and suggestions rather than a strict playlist.
And I think that's a really good point. Yeah, it's sort of more of a guideline rather than like a strict to follow. Because I think if there's one thing I try to, as I'm sure you did the same throughout a wedding, I think the like my heart sort of like, I don't know, like I feel so bad when I feel like there are couples in bridal parties who are like so like they've got like a list out throughout the whole night. They got their phone open and it's like they got the run sheet there and they got their do not plays and everything, and it's just this kind of like intense like checklist audit throughout the entire night. And it's like, hey, you've employed all of us to take care of you, and like it's our best interest for your best interest. So I think that's a really good point. It's sort of like, okay, even if I do say, if I do have this sort of list in mind, let that be sort of the vibe and the flow. And if, of course, if there's new do not plays, well, of course, yeah, do not play it. That's a really, really good point. I love that. Speaking of one really important part of the night, well, because I've seen a lot of formalities recently come and go. Like, for instance, like garter tosses and bouquet tosses are beginning to wane out a little bit, in my opinion. But one that's really still strong, and I love it because it's a beautiful part of the night, is the first dance. So tell us, Alex, like when it comes to the first dance, like how much does a couple lean on you for this? And perhaps actually, I would love to hear like one of the most standout first dances that you've ever seen at a wedding.
Yeah, so with the first dance, you kind of there's usually two camps of people. Some people that really want it to be, it's like the build up of the whole night is the first dance and it's the most important part of the night. And then there's some people that are really dreading their first dance. They're not used to being in the spotlight. They're not confident in their dancing ability, even if it's only just going to be a sway. They're not used to having all eyes on them for that long. To which I always encourage people. I say, look, in our consultation beforehand, I'll say, if you feel uncomfortable at all, I'm always within line of sight from the dance floor. So just look to me, give me the nod, and we'll move on to the next one as well. Most memorable first dance I saw was a couple that were, for that reason as well, they were kind of nervous about it and they just wanted to get it out of the way. They said, we're going to do our first dance first thing as soon as we come in. So before any speeches, before everyone even sits down, as soon as they entered, they wanted to go straight into their first dance. And it worked really well for them, actually, because the rest of the night they were kind of super relaxed and they could just enjoy it.
Oh, I love that. It's so important that you need to be relaxed on the night, and whatever relaxed means. For some people, I know it's. I swear this is true. I've had some couples that say, "I just need a bourbon and Coke. and I just after all the humdrum of the ceremony, and I'll be good. I've had other people like yourself have said, yeah, I just need these speeches or this first dance over, or whatever it may be, what it comes in for. But it's great that flexibility, and of course, like, that's what we're there for, right? To offer that. Now, sort of thinking of the entire environment of the room that we're existing in, right? So obviously, it's one thing to think of like the environment in the sense of the ambience and the music and the vibe, but then there's also the physical layout of how the room is structured in the first place. How critical is that to get right for a wedding reception? And sort of how would you guide your couples if they do have any questions regarding that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's different people have got input and it sort of affects things. Photographer, videographer is going to want to have their say on what looks best for getting photos and stuff. But I think it's something we should challenge as well, just the traditional, I call it the Last Supper style thing, where the bridal table is sort of offset from the rest of the guests, and they've got the dance floor in the middle. There's a reason that works. It's to sort of have the dance floor as a focal point. But some people they come to me and they say our family don't like to dance, and they're very I don't know, self-conscious or just not comfortable in their skin. That kind of creates a bit of everyone on the dance floor is really on show for everyone else. So I sort of say, if people say that, I say, why not have the dance floor off to the side, so that the people that want to have a chat there, they're sort of two separate things. And even with the bridal table as well, some people, they feel like they have to be on display all night as well. So you could easily just make your bridal table one of the round tables amongst your guests as well, and it sort of brings down the tension and pressure a little bit to be on show. And so I did one the other night, actually, this weekend just gone. The dance floor was off to the side, and there was a lot of people there they had family from interstate and overseas as well, so they were happy to just catch up and chat with people that hadn't seen all night, and that was fine. They were doing it on the other side of the room, and then this one side where I was like the party zone. All my speakers and lights were facing towards there, so it was almost like two different atmospheres across the room.
That's really cool, and I've done weddings similar to that as well, where there are two atmospheres, as you say, in the same kind of ecosystem. You got this whole other sort of like just social, enjoying the moment, chatting, chilling, drinking, whatever, and just catching up kind of vibe. And then like they're happy to know that they can do that in peace, away from the people who just want to dance and enjoy themselves in that way. But that kind of format actually allows to have both of those things play out really nicely. I must admit, I think that format works extremely well, and you probably notice this as well when there is a live band that is sort of at the scene as well, because that volume can be a lot for the all-in-one show. I've watched it even once where unfortunately like the band was so close to everybody, they just wanted to talk, so that formula was off, and so we lost like half of the guests just went off into the other side of the other, like the restaurant, and if anyone's happy. But I had to sort of say, look, this is happening. Like, these people want to talk. It's not just like two people. It's like 20 people that want to talk. So but that's a great point. I love that. Alex, you stated that one thing that's really important for couples to know is to have top of mind is to know their intentions. What do you mean by that?
Just sort of know what you expect out of your special day as well. So like I touched on earlier, sometimes you've got people that are coming from overseas and interstate, and if you want your wedding to be a nice gathering of sort of a family catch-up as well, that's fine as well. And I'll sort of just go into the knowledge that could be the case. And yes, it's your special day and you are the focus, but when things like that happen, sometimes they're sort of things that it's not necessarily a bad thing if you don't have a packed out dance floor all night, because people might want to catch up and chat with people they haven't seen for a long time, and also know your intention just on what you really want. Do you want to hear? Is it more important to you to hear your music and only your music, or is it more important to you for your guests to have a good time and enjoy the night and party away?
Yeah, I love that. That's a really good point. And I think what you're really highlighting there also is that, don't get me wrong, yes, of course, you and I both agree, it is 100% about you both. Like, that's still right there. But I think you are bringing up a really good point that I really try to bring the point down as well, is that it's also about the people you're bringing. You're inviting 100, 200, 300, God forbid, more than that, people into this space, and they all have their own sort of like wants and needs and interests and desires for an event. And so, keeping human beings as happy is actually quite complicated. So it's important, you're right, to have a bit more perspective beyond that. Not so much that you're worrying about every single little person in the room, but you're right, just sort of having a bit of awareness of those, what's happening around. Before I let you go, Alex, I'd love to hear more about this story you told me before we went live, about how you went above and beyond. You went the extra mile, as you said, the extra 15k mile for this couple. Tell me a bit about it.
Yeah, so this one was kind of one of my prouder moments. I think I was kind of happy with how it turned out. But basically, I was rocking up, setting up for the reception about 2.5 hours early, like I normally do, and I was bumping in, and because I was that early, I actually passed the bride past me on the way to her ceremony, and she said, "I'm so glad I caught you here. I'm so glad I caught you before we head down. I just had this idea. My husband to be is a pilot, and we want him for his walk-on music for his speech. We want to play the Top Gun theme." And that's it's going to get a great laugh out of everyone, and it's a surprise because the joke was that sort of the husband loves to tell everyone that he's a pilot. It's the first thing he mentioned, so everyone there would know he's a pilot. They would all get the joke. And I said, "I'll have a look," and I said, "Okay, leave it with me." She was off to go get her go do her ceremony then, so I just said, yeah, I'll see what I can do, leave it with me. And I sort of thought, this is really something that matters to her. It's going to be something super special. I was in the middle of Kangaroo Valley. There was zero reception, zero data, and of course it's as you would imagine, I don't have the Top Gun theme on hand to play at the wedding. So I was thinking, what can I do? So I was like, I'm 2.5 hours early. If I quickly bust myself and quickly bump in extra, I'm going to have plenty of time. So I quickly set up everything, hopped in the car, and just held my what I did to check for signal. I pressed play on Spotify on my phone on a track that I didn't have downloaded, so that I knew as soon as it came into range that it would play. So I sort of hopped in the car, pressed play on the track on my phone, and just kept driving and listening until some track would play on Spotify, and that's what I knew. And then I sat there, got my laptop and did mobile hotspot quickly downloaded the song, and then drove back in time for it to start. And they were super pleased that I could make that happen.
I love it. That's so fantastic. And I think that's the one thing that, that's the stuff that money can't buy. You've just got to, it can and can't buy in the sense that, you are buying a wedding professional like yourself, a passionate person who, really cares about the way that the whole thing is played out. But the fact that, you just stop by, easily you could have just driven right past and be like, oh, I'm going to their wedding, whatever, I'm being paid to go there. So I just love that, people like yourself you just stood by, you listened, you did something that really was a part of that, and now they have that memory for the rest of their life. That's just fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing that, and thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate you sharing your insights. I look forward to working with you again very shortly, but in the meantime, Alex, I just thank you so much for everything you do for those wonderful couples out there, and kill it out there next time on the dance floor and on your emceeing as well.
Thanks very much.
Well, there you have it. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Just As Planned TV and podcast show. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found some valuable insights and tips to help you plan your dream wedding. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on our channel and turn on notifications to stay up to date with our latest episodes. And if today's episode has inspired you in your own wedding journey, feel free to let us know in the comment section, or simply send through any burning questions you may have to hello@justasplan.com.au. We wish you all the very best in planning your big day, and we hope your wedding goes just as planned.